Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Liftoff Houston Access to Capital. So clearly, if you're sitting in the audience today, you have something that a lot of people just don't have, and that's called an entrepreneurial spirit. And I will tell you, if it wasn't for people like you all, the people sitting on this panel and myself wouldn't have jobs, right? We wouldn't have our purpose in life. So first of all, I would like to applaud you all and thank you all for making this step into launching a business or making your business more successful. So I'm going to introduce the panel in just a second. I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. But I'll be moderating tonight. My name is Jude Ogle, and I am a market sales executive for Capital One. So in short, I manage the business banking team for Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. I don't have a lot of answers, but we got a really smart panel, and they'll have most of the answers. I might chime in every now and then just to give my 2 cents, but it probably won't even be necessary. So what we're going to do in this format, it might be different than the ones they've done in the past, but we're going to ask you to jot down your questions or try to remember your questions at the end. So we're going to have Small Business Administration who will go first, but keep all of your questions to the end so that all of the panelists can chime in on a question and add valuable insight as opposed to stopping through the presentation. I think that's the most beneficial way for not only us, but for the panelists as well. And we hope you learn a lot, ask a lot of questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question other than the one that's not asked. So please ask questions, put your hands up. I'll try to remember you in order, or they'll be able to remember you in order. But they're going to move around and talk to you all. So we're going to make it as intimate as we possibly can. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do is let me introduce all of the organizations first and give them a minute or so to introduce themselves personally, and then we're going to move into the presentation. So first we have Small Business Administration.
My name is Mark Winchester. I'm the Deputy District Director of the United States Small Business Administration. I've been with SBA going on 9 years, and been in Houston going on 9 years as well. And our mission is to aid and assist small businesses to start, expand, and grow.
So Mark sounds like he has a real sexy title, Deputy Commissioner. Wow, I mean, that was a big title there. All right, and then we have Lift Fund.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Lopez. I'm a Senior Business Development Officer with Lift Fund. Been with the organization for 7 years, and I've been in banking for 30 years. And I look forward to discussing our services.
Okay, hi, we have Capital One.
Sorry, my name is Nancy Alvidrez. I am a senior business banker with Capital One. I've been with Capital One 4 months, but I've been in the industry 17 years now, and I help businesses expand with their any banking needs that they have. And like, I just want to echo Jude's words when he said that just for you guys to be here, I really, admire you and thank you for taking the time and driving downtown Houston. That speaks a lot about your entrepreneurial spirit.
All right, well, thank you all. So let's go ahead and get started with Mark in the SBA, and he has a presentation for you all. Again, if you can hold your questions till after all the presentations. Thank you.
Thanks, Jude, and thanks to Capital One, to the City of Houston, Liftoff Houston. Because it's an intimate setting, I think I'm going to get down here on the first floor here and get with the business owners, and we'll start with a presentation. As I mentioned a moment ago, there we go. As I mentioned a moment ago, I'm with the United States Small Business Administration, Houston District Office, and my name is Mark Winchester. 3 things that I want to share with you. SBA, we help business owners make their American dream a reality. We also empower small businesses through our resources, and I'll be sharing about those resources with you. And then the other thing that I want to communicate in this slide is that SBA is your go-to resource as it relates to small business. SBA was created in 1953. SBA's mission is to aid and assist small businesses to start, expand, and grow. We are in all 50 states. We have 68 district offices. The Houston district office, we are in Texas, and we're part of Region 6. There are 10 district offices in Region 6, and there are 6 district offices in Texas. The Houston district office, we cover 32 counties, all the way up to Huntsville, all the way over to Louisiana, all the way over to College Station, and all the way down to Wharton. You may not know there's over 606,000 small businesses in the greater Houston area, and interesting enough, over 500,000 of those are sole proprietorships. And over 99.5% of those are considered small according to SBA size standards. Now, I mentioned about SBA's mission is to aid and assist small businesses to start, expand, and grow, and we do that in 4 ways: through counseling, contracting, capital, and crisis. And I'm going to review each one. Let me go back 1 slide. There we go. So counseling. Want to let you know there are 3 resources as it relates to counseling. First is SCORE. Has anyone utilized SCORE? Raise your hand. Oh, that's exciting. I was talking to Jude and Nancy with Capital One, and they were sharing how Capital One really leverages SBA SCORE's resource. They utilize SCORE with Liftoff Houston, as you may know, and they also utilize SCORE with Getting Down to Business. And so it's just exciting how there's collaboration with SBA's partner and Capital One, and really do appreciate that. SCORE provides mentorship, and there's 150 volunteers here in Houston that provide mentorship in 63 industries. And I want to let you know it's free, it's confidential, and they, I would imagine they have a mentor for pretty much all the businesses in this room. And so you'll want to utilize SCORE and the mentorship. And I will say this, they also have expertise in law. They have attorneys who provide their time. There's marketing experts, there's CPAs. So in addition to the subject matter expert in the 63 industries, they have subject matter experts and resources. It's like an extended team of your small business that you can leverage to grow your business. The SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, there are over 1,000 SBDCs across the country. There are 15 SBDC service centers here in Houston, and these are 125 full-time staff that can assist you with your business plan, pro forma, for marketing, for human resources, for U.S. patents. They can help you with a wide variety of services, and they can also help you with loan packaging. Does anyone familiar with what a loan package is? Yes, so another thing that the SBDC can do is they can assist you in getting the business plan and the supporting documents, knowing what you're working with you on your total project cost and what your startup cost, and getting that all ready to go to the lender so you can have a conversation with the lender about the capital that you need. Another counseling resource that we have is the Women's Business Center. The Women's Business Center provides one-on-one technical assistance and counseling to women-owned small businesses, and they can also assist women-owned small businesses with certification. How many of you get involved in contracting at all? Raise your hand. So that's excellent. So the individuals that raised your hand, want to let you know the Women's Business Center can help you with the women-owned small business self-certification and certification. There are over 83 what we call NAICS codes or industries that women-owned small businesses can pursue set-aside contracts. We received some information last week. Here in Houston, over $259 million went to women-owned small businesses. And so there's a lot of federal contracting opportunity here in Houston, over $1.2 billion, and then about a third of that is going to women-owned small businesses. So if you're interested in the women-owned small business self-certification or in federal contracting, we can assist you with that. Well, this is great. This leads right into federal contracting. So I want to let you know there's different types of contracting. There's federal contracting, there's state contracting, corporate contracting, municipal contracting. SBA gets involved in federal contracting. Last year, over $400 billion in federal contracting. And about a quarter of that, or about $100 billion, goes to small business. And federal agencies, they have a goal. And that goal is 23% of federal contracts go to small business. So if you have the resources, you've been in business 2 years or more, and you've done some contracting at the local level, well, then you may want to consider getting into federal contracting. SBA also has some specific programs in federal contracting. We have the 8A program. It's a business development program, and there are opportunities for joint venture, for mentor protege, for business development, and set-aside contracts. We also have the Hub Zone program. It's based on a geographical location, and I recommend that you visit the website www.sba.gov/hub, H-U-B, and you want to go there and see if your business is in a qualified census tract. If your business is in a qualified census tract, you could apply for the SBA Hub Zone program, and it too is a set-aside contract program, meaning, and I said this a couple of times, I want to clarify, set-aside means non-competitive contracts. So there's an opportunity for Hub Zone contracts right here in Houston. I mentioned the women-owned small business, and do we have any veterans in the room? I'm a Gulf War veteran myself, served in the U.S. Navy submarines. Do we have any veterans in the room? Well, let me ask you this. How many of you have a family member or friend that has served in the military? So let that family member or friend know that we also have specific programs for service-disabled, for veterans and service-disabled veterans. And I will share that with service-disabled veterans, there's an executive order called 13360. That's 13360. And it was written into law by George W. Bush, and it's an executive order that 3% of all contracts go to service-disabled vets. And with the Veterans Administration, there's an opportunity for set-aside, non-competitive contracts for veterans. So we've covered counseling, we've covered contracting. Capital. This is important. SBA, we don't provide the money, but we guarantee the loan. So if you're thinking about capital for your business, you need to go to a bank such as Capital One. You would go directly to a lender that participates in the SBA loan guarantee program. What is the competitive advantage of the loan guarantee? The competitive advantage is the biggest issue that small businesses face is not having the collateral necessary to secure the loan. So in lieu of the collateral, in lieu of the asset necessary to secure the loan, SBA has the loan guarantee, and you can utilize that SBA loan guarantee to get capital for your business. And by having the loan guarantee, what does it do? It lowers the risk. It lowers the risk for Capital One if they know that if Mark Winchester were to get a loan and default on that loan, that they can get up to 85% of their money back for a 7A loan. So it lowers the risk. It's also easy to find. There are over 140 lenders right here in Houston that participate in the SBA loan guarantee program, including Capital One. That includes 32 counties. It is simple. with banks, and I believe Capital One, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jude and Nancy, Capital One, y'all are a preferred lender, is that correct? So with a preferred lender, you only have to complete their forms. There's 2 additional forms, the 1919 and 1920, but besides the 1919 and 1920, you're completing the bank's forms, and that's how we've made it simple. Startup friendly, I mentioned the collateral, the loan guarantee in lieu of collateral. Inexpensive. Who can tell me what the prime interest rate is right now? Does anyone know? Prime interest rate. I know Jude knows, and I know Nancy, and I know Anthony knows, but I apologize. Someone mentioned it or okay, so the prime interest rate now is 5%. For the longest time, the prime interest rate was 3.25%. But even at 5%, SBA's interest rate is 2.25 to 2.75 plus prime. So what is 5% plus 2.25? This is a test. Excellent. Who said that? I'm going to give that gentleman an A plus, and I'm going to give you I've got some resource guides in the back, so I want to make sure to give you that SBA resource guide. So the interest rates right now are between 7.25 and 7.75. And so when you talk to the lender, when you talk to Capital One, you want to know, do they offer the SBA loan guarantee? What interest rate are they going to offer you? What maturity are they going to offer you? And what type of closing costs are required for the loan? Oh, thank you. I'm chuckling because I need a point over at the first laptop. Okay, so capital. I want to let you know another way that you can get financing is you can visit SBA's Lender Match website. You can go online and submit your project, and banks like Capital One who participate in the Lender Match, you can submit your project to them, and if they're interested in it, they'll opt in and they'll reach out to you regarding your project. So another way we've made it simple besides working with preferred lenders is you can go online, submit your project, and banks will respond to your project. So we've talked about, counseling. We've talked about contracting. We've talked about capital. And the 4th C is crisis. The 4th C involves Office of Disaster Assistance. And I just want to let you know that SBA has a department that handles disaster loans. And I want to let you know there's several loans that are available to you in case of a disaster. First one is for rental. Want to let you know you can get up to $40,000 from SBA in a loan if you lose furniture, if you lose your car. You can get up to 40. You can apply for a disaster loan for your personal property. That's what I want to communicate. In addition to the personal property, you can also, if you're a homeowner, you can apply for up to $200,000 for your residence. And I will share this, for homeowners, you can also apply for the $40,000 in personal property. So you can apply for a total of $240,000 if you have personal property and for your home. For businesses, if you were impacted by a hurricane such as Hurricane Harvey, you can apply for up to $2 million through the Economic Injury, EIDL. So SBA has an economic injury disaster loan for small businesses that goes up to $2 million. I do want to highlight or note that over $3.4 billion have been lent by SBA, and roughly 90% of that went to homeowners, 10% went to businesses. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention to you our local website, www.sba.gov/tx/Houston. You can sign up for email updates. You can find out local resources, type in your zip code, and you can see where the nearest SBDC, the nearest score, where SBA is at. And you can also get linked in up to a lender match. And I will say this, I'll mention one more thing. If you visit the sba.gov/tx/Houston, there's a monthly activity report. That monthly activity report shows all 140 lenders, how many loans they've done, and what's the dollar amount. So you can see the activity of each bank in regards to SBA lending. And there's my contact information, Mark Winchester. There's my phone number. There's our website. And I did bring some resource guides in the back. And I also have my business card. Thank you again to the City of Houston for Liftoff Houston and Capital One. Thank you very much.
If you can pass this around. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Lopez, Lift Fund. And what we are a 24-year-old nonprofit organization, and we provide technical support and funding for businesses that have trouble accessing credit through conventional sources. We're headquartered out of San Antonio, Texas. Let's see. And we now are in 11 states, southeast region of the United States, and we are still growing and trying to expand further territory, focusing on the southeast region of the United States. Our office locally is here close to the gallery area. Okay, so what we do is we send loans to businesses that have trouble accessing credit. We start with loans as small as $500 up to $500,000 through our programs. And we also look at loans through our CDFI program, where we can consider a loan up to $5 million, SBA 504. We make loans to different industries where it's difficult to get a loan, restaurants, construction, and high-risk models. We do just about any type of industry except for investment. These are some of our clients that we work with. What I just passed out was the 5 C's of credit. A lot of financial institutions look at that when we look at your loan application. It's very important, and we'll go over it. Let me go back. Okay. The first thing that we're going to look at is their character, which is based on your credit. Now, our average credit score for our customers is about 590. Just as long as there's nothing derogatory reported within recent months, there's a good chance we can help you. We look at capacity, your ability to repay the loan. We look at your cash flow and your personal cash flow, the cash flow of the business. If it's a startup business, then we're going to look very closely at your personal cash flow. We can also consider co-borrow cash flow if there's someone that lives with you or anyone that is part owner of the business. We also look at capital. Capital being your equity injection, your down payment into the business. We can finance up to 80% of the purchase price on equipment, or to purchase a business, or to start up a business. We also look at collateral. Now, we're very flexible on this matter. We can use the equipment of the business, the equipment that you're going to purchase. We can also use office equipment. We finance quite a few commercial trucks. We also finance just about, again, any type of business, just as long as it's not real estate investment. We can use real estate as collateral. We like to see the property free and clear. And then we also can even accept jewelry as collateral. We would put it on safekeeping until the loan is paid in full. And finally, the conditions. We can finance startups. We finance quite a few startups, actually. And we also finance difficult industries. How many here have a restaurant? Okay, we love restaurants financing. And we also, who owns any commercial trucks? Any truckers out there? No. We finance commercial trucks. We have 3 different types of SBA programs that we use with our customers. One of them is the SBA microloan program, where we can consider a loan up to $20,000. We also have a SBA 7A Community Advantage program for unique to nonprofit organizations, where we can consider a loan anywhere from $50,000 up to $250,000. And then we have the SBA 504 program where we can consider a loan up to $5 million. This is like for heavy equipment and also for real estate, owner occupied. We also have other programs for veterans, and we also have other programs that are constantly coming out. And right now we are offering a loan program for businesses that have been impacted by Hurricane Harvey. Are there any businesses that have been in operation for at least 2 years? Okay, you may qualify for a program through this, what we're offering. We're considering loans up to $35,000 at 0% interest rate for businesses that were negatively impacted by the storm. If you need help, these are our happy faces that work with us. Myself on the far left and some of the other individuals that we work with, Bianca, Francisco, Mike Coulter, who's in charge of our large loan division, and also Letitia, who is with our 504 department. And that's our contact information if you want to take pictures, and I also have business cards that I can share with you once we're finished. Any questions?
We're holding out questions that all the presenters are.
Okay, my apologies.
No problem, yeah.
Okay, we have resources for questions and answers. You can go to our website at www.liftfund.com. Thank you.
All right, well. Good evening. How's everyone doing? Good. My name is Moises Brito. Apologies, I'm a little tired, but like I said, my name is Moises Brito. I'm with Houston Business Development, Inc. If you're not familiar with Houston Business Development, Inc., we are a nonprofit institution, been around now for 30 years plus. Initially established by the city of Houston with the purpose of stimulating the economy, creating job opportunities, and supporting expansion of small businesses. And the way we do that is by providing capital. We provide capital anywhere from $5,000 to $500,000. Typically, you can use the money for working capital, furniture, fixture, machinery, equipment. We also do startup. If you're thinking, obviously, everyone here probably starting a business. We do startups, loans. So we often what we want to do is, be considered as an alternative source of financing. We understand that it may be difficult to obtain financing from traditional banks. So much like Lift Fund, we try to provide that alternative source of financing. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of go through a different type of lending program that we have to help your business. Looking at the power, let's see here. Let's see. Well, as I said, just to go over some of the eligibilities, the type of business that we help, you have to have sales of less than $25 million. That's what we consider small business. Another one is you have to be for-profit. We work for entities that are for-profit or non-profit. Our footprint is pretty much Houston and surrounding areas, so anything adjacent to the Harris County is our footprint. And that pretty much stands pretty far from, anything from Humboldt to Katy to Galveston. So pretty much the metropolitan area is our footprint. You do have to demonstrate sufficient cash flow in collateral. Cash flow on our end is pretty much any amount of money that you apply for, you have to demonstrate that you can make the payments. And that's pretty much via projection or historical financial. And then collateral, we're pretty much flexible on the collateral. It may be whatever the asset that you're trying to purchase can be the collateral, or any asset that you have to pledge as well. So basically pretty standard when we are looking at doing business loan. As with any program, there are some businesses that are not eligible. Any type of business under sexual, liquor, or any type of business are not eligible. Any spec real estate, that is not eligible. Any religious organization, publishing and broadcasting type of industry, those are not eligible under the program. Okay, the next one is pretty much more in detail about the different type of loan products that we have. The first one is the Fast Track Loan Program. That program pretty much finances anything from $5,000 up to $25,000. And again, you can use that for working capital, furniture, fixture, machinery, equipment. It was just pretty much designed as a quick product. We try to make a decision about 3 business days. And so what we're trying to do is just, if you are in a crunch while you're running your business, you need a quick $25,000, we want the borrower to kind of use more of say, a cheap type of funds. We don't want borrower to pretty much access credit card funding. So it's kind of pretty much to prevent from that borrower to apply or use their credit cards at a higher rate. And then the next product pretty much is the startup loan program. We do anywhere from $5,000 up to $75,000. And one of the main requirements is you do have to have relevant experience under that particular program. We want that borrower to have at least anywhere from 3 to 7 years for a startup. We also require that borrower to have some equity injection. That can be anywhere from 10% up to 33%. And basically what we want is that borrower to have some skin in the game. Typically, we are flexible with the number as well. It depends on the type of request that you apply for, but it can go anywhere from 10% to 33%. Then you're going to need a business plan. Business plan with the projections, with the market analysis, and pretty much the plan of what you're trying to accomplish. We do want to see that business plan when you're applying for a startup loan program. And the next one, the next product is the direct loan. This is more for established business. We could go up to $500,000. And again, you can use the money for working capital, furniture, fixture, machinery, and equipment. Basically, we determine the terms on that particular program depending on what you're applying for. If you're applying for a piece of machinery and equipment, that's usually going to be 5 to 7 years. If we're talking about a piece of property, that's probably going to be 20 to 25 years. So depending on what the request is for is what's going to determine what the terms are. Our rates on that particular programs pretty much is anywhere from 5% to 7% on average. The high rates that you're going to see are our programs probably 9.5. So we try to stay pretty competitive within that program. Then we also do tandem loan. If you happen to have a good relationship with your bank and you happen to apply to your bank and they're only comfortable with financing a portion of the lending, we can come behind that bank and finance the remaining funding and in tandem with the bank. Often we come in a second lien position, which pretty much helps that bank to feel comfortable in lending you the funding. We also do lines of credit for those type of businesses that perform a service and you are pretty much billing your clients and your clients, you're providing terms to your client where your client's going to take 30 days or 60 days to pay you. We can provide a line of credit that give you that access to that capital while you're waiting on funding to be collected. So that line of credit is pretty helpful for a lot of businesses that are in that type of industry where your clients pretty much pay you in 30 days or 60 days. We also do SBA 504. The SBA 504 is a good program because it allows you to come in with a 10% equity injection into the project. It is reserved for heavy machinery and equipment type of deals and also owner occupied, meaning that your business has to be there at least 51% of the leasable space. So your business has to be in that particular property to be eligible to qualify for SBA 504. Okay. Then our processing time, we try to make a decision in about 7 to 20 days. Basically, the first process is just to contact you, make sure that you are eligible for the program, that you are able to meet some of the main requirements. We do a site visit, we do underwrite the package, and then it goes to our loan committee. And ultimately, after our loan committee, we're able to provide you with an approval letter. And we can do that in pretty short period of time, 7 to 20 days, given that you can always provide the information that is being requested, a complete package. So we'll provide you with a checklist of all the items that you need to submit. Pretty much you'll go through that checklist and provide all the information that we are requesting, and we're able to process that loan request. Then underwriting, basically we will look for positive earnings. You do have to demonstrate, again, the ability to make the payments by either projections or historical financials. So we look for capacity earnings as you project your loan request. Sufficient collateral, we talked about collateral and the equity. Management experience is a big one. We do want to see that experience in that particular type of industry. Pretty much the 5 C's of credit. I think Anthony spoke earlier about the 5 C's of credit. So we're pretty much going to have that same concept as far as evaluating the 5 C's of credit. And maybe that we may be a little more flexible in certain areas. Okay. And then we are located at the Palm Center. The Palm Center is right on Griggs Road and MLK, right at the corner. There's a lot of development going over there, but we also provide office space for small businesses that are trying to start. We know that the rent expense is probably going to be one of the highest expenses that you may have as you establish your business. So we try to provide that as well at a very attractive rate for your business to get started. And then this is my contact information. If you want to reach out or if you want to visit our website, hbdi.org, you can find out more information about the different type of loan programs and products that we have to be able to help your business. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't have a nice presentation like my other colleagues did, but they did a great job. So pretty much kind of like, I just want to if you had to take just one thing out of this presentation, remember cash flow, because pretty much that was kind of like the common theme on their presentations. When you go to talk to any lender or a banker, that's kind of one of the first things that we want to make sure that, you know, there's enough cash coming into the business that you can repay the loan. And the other thing, take advantage of all these resources. It's amazing how many things the city, you know, we have here in Houston that a lot of business owners don't take advantage. And a lot of the stuff is free. I always tell to my customers is like, knowledge is power. So the more that you know, the more that you get informed, you know, the better that you're gonna be able to talk to a banker or to talk to an investor. You don't even know that maybe walking out of here, you can potentially run into an investor. Then if they ask you, do you have a business plan? You know, your financials, how do your financials look? Do you know what a balance sheet is? Do you know what an income statement is? You will be surprised how many business owners we talk to, and when I ask them, you know, I want to see your financials, and they are like, you know, deer in headlights, right? Like, what is a financial statement? I don't know what a financial statement is. So, you know, those are kind of like the, you know, the things that, you know, I hope you take out of this presentation. I think that copy of the 5 C's of credit, it's very good. So, you know, try to work it around your business plan, or if you already have a business, that's a very powerful tool when you go and talk to a lender.
All right, so it's that time where we have Q&A. So I know you all have probably saved up some questions for our panelists. Again, there is no such thing as a bad question, as a stupid question, unless you just don't ask it. So please feel free to ask the question. Maybe your neighbor or the person sitting behind you is thinking the same thing. So be the first to ask the question. But before we take questions, there's one thing I do want to do and acknowledge that I didn't do initially, and that's thank the Houston Public Library for their, you know, the resources and the access to locations and people in order for us to be able to, you know, put Lift Off Houston on the map. So let's give them a big hand, because the city is great, but without volunteers and people working to have these type of events, we don't move forward. So thank you very much. So let's take those questions.
How y'all doing? All right, so Cecil Ivy, Friends of Cindy. We're essentially financial literacy and I guess, concierge services for people that suffer from a loss. So, question, Artie, so one of the issues with the HIDBI was that you don't fund religious organizations. Does that include faith-based organizations or just churches?
If your product tend to be towards the religion type of product, that is not eligible. But mostly churches and educational type of industry that are teaching faith. Those are the ones that are not eligible.
Essentially, we're going to teach financial literacy, but I'm going to talk about the Lord every once in a while. So is that faith-based? I mean, does that count? Or?
Yeah, we can look at it and see if it does meet the requirement or not on
okay, Artie, so 3 to 7 years experience for the borrower, but we can actually replace that management experience from the partner or...
Yeah, if you have a partnership with someone that has that type of experience, then that mitigates that factor. Okay. Someone has to have experience in the business, so you can partner up with someone that does have the experience requirement.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so for startups, cash flow and projections. We're just starting out. We don't have a lot of cash flow. How would you recommend as far as coming up with cash flow and projections or something along those lines?
Yeah, well, you can search the industry. There's something that's called industry averages, and that provides information as far as what is that particular industry is supposed to generate and what the cash flow looks like. So we always compare the information that you provide, versus that industry average.
Industryaverages.com.
RMA.
Interject a couple of things. One, want to let you know for SBA, for religious-based organizations, you can apply for an exception regarding the SBA loan guarantee. For example, a Christian bookstore. A Christian bookstore can apply for an SBA loan and apply for an exception, even though that it's faith-based, if it can demonstrate that it's selling to everyone, so you can apply for an exception. And Cecil, you had an excellent question on a startup business and pro forma. You're absolutely right. You want to connect with SCORE. You want to connect with the SBDC. You want them to assist you. They're not going to, the SBDC will create the pro forma for you, but it will require your input. What are your gross revenues? What is your cost of goods sold? What are your repeating operating expenses? What kind of net income? And to Moise's point, there is what they call RMA, Risk Management Association. RMA has a financial report, an annual financial report, and based on your industry, you can benchmark and compare the financial ratios for that industry and apply that to your situation. Now, not all banks utilize RMA, but it's definitely a tool that you can utilize and incorporate into your projections. And you had one more question. You had the one on religion, one on pro forma, and what was the third one?
The borrowers versus the partners, and then the cash flow.
I'm sorry,
So I had the religious, the 3 to 7 years experience for the borrower versus the manager or...
Oh, yes, I wanted to share, and that's a good point, Cecil, and I want to share with everyone in the room. Imagine you can have an extension of your team. I mentioned about SCORE. SCORE can provide mentorship, and more than likely there's a SCORE mentor that has expertise in your industry, so they can be an extension of your team. The SBDC counselor with the pro forma, with the business plan, human resources, they can be an extension. SCORE has attorneys that can provide risk management and legal feedback. That can be extension of your team. So I just wanted to emphasize how you can extend that team by utilizing the resources. As Nancy said, there's a very strong entrepreneurial ecosystem, and utilizing the city of Houston, they have business opportunity. They can be an extension as well. Lift Off Houston. So
Now, would they have to be employees of Mountain?
No, sir, they do not. You just need to demonstrate in your business plan how you're leveraging those additional resources and how you're incorporating that into your business.
Oh, perfect.
All right, Mr. Cecil, we're going to ask you to pass the mic.
Thank you. So my question is, what you saying, they could be an extension if you spent time, let's say 2 years with mentorship and it's been the same person or whatnot
Yes,
for
ma'am.
those different things with
Yeah.
SCORE?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Your business plan, who are your resources, or who you know you're teaming up with, and who's helping you put that plan together. So that always helps when you identify those resources.
All right, what other questions we have out there? Mr. Cecil got another question, so that's why I'm asking. Well, all right, if no one else want to raise their hand right now, we'll go back to Mr. Cecil.
Jude, I just had another comment, and I mentioned about SBDC, and I shared this, Jude, with the last liftoff group. Another resource with the SBDC is they can assist you in market research. So if Houston is requiring a business plan and you need market research, one resource for you is the SBDC. They have a department called SBDC Net, and the SBDC Net is out of San Antonio, but you can request a market research package. That can include SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That can include ring analysis, B2B, business to business, B2C, business to customer, business to government. That ring analysis can be from 1 mile to 99 miles. It can provide information on your target market. Who is your target market? They can provide a business template, a sample pro forma. So another resource, and I wanted to communicate this to all of the Liftoff Houston participants, to utilize the SBDC and utilize the market research. I'm sorry. SWOT analysis. Oh, ring analysis. Ring, kind of like an archery target with concentric circles, and the circles get narrow as you get closer to the bullseye. Well, that's ring analysis, and you start with that bullseye, that the center of where you would want to start your business. So that's a very good point. The ideal situation is you have an idea of where you want to locate your business, and then you provide them that location, and then you tell them, I want ring analysis for 5 miles from that location, all the way up to 99 miles. And you can see who your competitors are, where they're located, what kind of revenues, what are their weaknesses, the SWOT analysis.
Okay, and we can request that.
Excellent question. From the University of Houston Small Business Development Center, and what you'll need to do is schedule an appointment with an SBDC counselor. And when you schedule that appointment, you can tell them, Mark Winchester, Deputy Director, sent me, and I'd like to have some ring analysis. Okay?
There go Mark throwing their title around again. I think what's real important that everyone is up here is saying, there's tremendous resources. That's your favorite word should be free.
Correct.
Right? I mean, if you haven't adopted the word free, and I mean expert opinions, and not just opinions, expert knowledge for free. Now, I hope one of y'all don't have business development as your business, because then we just poked a hole in it. But you can get these resources for free, so please take full advantage of them.
Thank you for sharing that, June.
All right, I know we got some more questions out there.
We are partner in a way that we process SBA 504. We are a CDC, and we are able to process SBA 504. And that 504, SBA 504. We partnered in that way, but it's definitely a different entity. We are our own corporation.
So do you have your own fund? Like, do you guys have a fund?
Yeah, because keep in mind that like Mark mentioned, the SBA is just a guarantee. Really, the funds are either the bank Live Fund, or the CDC. The, well, I wish I was giving you the money, but the banks is really the bank's money.
CDC says no security deposit operation.
No.
No.
So HBDI has its own funds. We are a lender. Okay? SBA typically just guarantee the money. They don't actually lend the money. Okay? So, but you have to be a participant. We participate on the SBA lending, where we provide funding guaranteed by SBA. So basically, that's kind of the relationship.
So someone mentioned, I think you mentioned that your favorite customer is restaurants.
Finance restaurants.
Like fast food restaurants or
All types of restaurants.
Okay.
Even food trucks.
food trucks. That's very strange to hear. Usually, I used to be a franchisor I had franchisees, and we are approving them through SBA through U.S. Bank mostly in another state, and it's very refreshing to hear that somebody's favorite food is restaurants.
So
Now,
just
the key to restaurant financing is a really good business plan, because there's so much competition out there.
Just a plug in for Capital One, I'm sorry, but we're a preferred lender, and we do have specific restaurants that we would be on the list as a lender to seek financial support from. So we do restaurants as well. Typically, it's going to be a large franchise or something of that nature, but we'll look at a family-owned business as well. Like Nancy said, we're a cash flow lender. If you could pay us back, we'll look at it.
We lend the money, yes.
I noticed one of the C's here is collateral, and that would go on with like real estate or equipment. Do y'all have any experience with web-based businesses, something that wouldn't have real estate or equipment to offer as collateral, but it does have like a separate business plan that works
Like
a different way?
from the Lift Fund perspective, we like tangible assets. A web page is an intangible asset, so we can't use that as collateral.
But what is it, a service? What exactly is the business? Because if it's a traditional line of credit for working capital, the collateral is accounts receivables. So like if you're a service company and you have receivables coming in, that can be used as collateral. So that's kind of what you do, or what, or
If they get subscription based, if they can show subscription, like they have a million subscribers at $25 a month, for example.
Yeah. And I want to expand on that just a little bit, because like I said earlier, I also manage Austin. And Austin is, so when you talk about IT and things of that nature, so we may have someone who has developed some type of software and say, hey, I want to use that as collateral, and you have a certain number of subscribers or people to it, and absolutely we'll look at that.
The other thing that I'd like to interject is, I shared earlier SBA's competitive advantage is the so if there's a shortfall of collateral, if there's not enough assets to secure the loan, that's where SBA steps in with the loan guarantee. It is to make up for that shortfall of collateral. So if you're in a situation, and you could be an asset-based, collateral type business, you have real estate, but if you're a service-based business and you do not have the assets necessary to secure the loan, that's the competitive advantage where you can step in and utilize the financial toolbox, if you will, of the SBA loan guarantee.
I had a question for the panel. Piggybacking on that question, how do you guys view pledging of invoices? I mean, that's essentially for service industry company.
What type of invoices?
Accounts receivable, as far as.
That's two completely different things. What is called in the market asset-based lending, known more like factoring, that's different than traditional lending at a bank. Because to your point, they are pretty much buying your invoices, and they are doing their underwriting based on your customer, not you. And then usually it's a higher rate and fees, and they have other type of structure. Versus the bank, we don't take per se the invoice. We kind of like look at your financials. We make sure that you have enough cash coming in, and kind of like what we do, we just do a UCC lien on all your receivables, but you're still responsible for collecting and managing that aspect of your business. The factoring, they take over. It's different, because pretty much they are buying your invoice and they are paying you a discount amount on whatever the invoice was, and then they take over and they are the ones that take the payment from your customer. And the traditional way, you're still responsible for that.
And factoring is beneficial to some businesses. It absolutely is. I don't recommend it for all businesses if you don't have to do it, because they typically take 30 to 35% off. So sometimes that is the way to go. But if you could do it through the traditional, lending through receivables, then you definitely want to take that option.
I also want to mention SBA, and that includes the lenders here. We have 140 lenders in Houston. Some of those lenders offer what they call a cap line. Cap line is an SBA loan guarantee with a line of credit, and it can be utilized for contracting, purchase order financing, inventory. So just want you to be aware that SBA does offer a line of credit with a loan guarantee, and it's known as a cap line, and it can be used for short-term financing, it can be used line of credit, can be used for inventory, can be used for contracting and purchase order. I will say this, banks here in Houston typically utilize the cap line when there are assets to secure the loan. But there have been some banks that have also done lines of credit where it wasn't asset or collateral based for the cap line program.
Yes, my question is for you, Mark. You mentioned earlier the benefits of utilizing veterans and the different loans and options that they have. I have a brother of mine who is a veteran. I necessarily don't want him a part of my business, but I want the benefits that he might be able to bring.
That's an excellent question. Your first name is?
I'm Trey Prince.
Trey, nice to meet you. And Trey, so the first thing I would share is, and I didn't talk about it, but SBA has financing specifically for veterans called Veteran Advantage. SBA has, so there's a guarantee, and I mentioned the 85% guarantee. There's a 75% guarantee. Loans of $150,000 and 1 penny and above have a 75% guarantee. Loans of $150,000 and less have an 85% guarantee. And for veterans, SBA has waived the guarantee fee. So a veteran can get up to $350,000 utilizing SBA Express, and SBA has waived the guarantee fee. SBA has other programs for veterans. One of the programs is they have a 9-day veteran entrepreneurial boot camp for veterans. We also have a program just for women veterans called VWISE, Veteran Women Igniting the Spirit of Entrepreneurship. And it's a conference, 3 to 5 day conference for veteran women to learn about entrepreneurship. So we have the entrepreneurial boot camp, we have VWISE, we have Veteran Advantage, and then also, Trey, what I mentioned in the presentation related to federal contracting. For veterans, service-disabled veterans, there's a 3% goal of set-aside non-competitive contracts for service-disabled veterans. Also, there's a program, it's through the U.S. Department of Veterans Administration. They can verify veterans, and they have a database called VIP, not very important people, but a vendor information page. Vendor information page is a database, and it's just veteran-owned businesses. And so federal agencies look for just veteran-owned businesses. So another resource is a VIP database of just veteran-owned businesses and that can be verified by the Veterans Administration. And I will say this, and I apologize, Jude, I don't mean to monopolize the time, but there's a database called SAM, System Award Management, and you can self-certify as a veteran-owned business, self-certify in SAM to do business with the federal government.
And what's the percentage, Mark, that they have to?
3% for service-disabled vets.
No, very good information, Mark. So please continue to share. I think you might want to reignite with your brother tonight.
And Trey, after this meeting, if I can get your information, we have a one-page flyer that covers those programs, and I can email that to you, Trey.
Hello, my name is Sean Johnson Scipio. I want to say that all the lending options you have sound phenomenal, but do any of y'all have resources on accessing local investor networks? Like,
if I can interject, and your first name is?
Sean.
Sean, excellent question. And I didn't even talk about this. When people think of SBA, they think of loans. People aren't aware that SBA also does equity investment. And it sounds ironic. You'd think SBA just did loans with 140 banks. But we also have equity investors that are backed by SBA. They're called angel investors and venture capitalists. And we have over 300 venture capitalists nationwide, and we have 5 venture capitalists locally. They get up to $150 million from SBA, and then they are responsible of turning that around and investing in small businesses. It includes Capital Royalty Group. Capital Royalty, they invest in medical technology. There's also Main Street Capital. Main Street Capital is a venture capitalist backed by SBA, and they invest in small businesses as well. So there are, but I will say this, typically they're called SBICs. And you can visit www.sba.gov/SBIC, and you can get the directory or list of SBICs. But typically, they invest in increments of $5 million or more.
That was a great question. I'm glad you brought it up, because that was something, again, I'm glad I'm here, because that was something that I wasn't aware of. Because as a banker, we hear that quite a bit. Hey, can you know, is there anyone out there would be interested in investing in my company? And again, with our banker and, you know, policies and procedures, that's just not something we typically will do, you know, because that's an individual, and we can't be responsible if he or she is just, you know, a criminal. I mean, to put it lightly. So.
Hello, I am Johari Williams, the CEO of the Art Dance Academy. And Mr. Mark, would you just mind explaining more the Hub Zone contracts that you were speaking of? Because I didn't get to catch it, but does it relate to community enriched businesses that are actually bringing enrichment, or is it solely for commercial development into the economy?
Very good question. So Hub Zone is based on a geographical location. It's based on what they call a QCT, Qualified Census Tract. And Qualified Census Tract is based on unemployment and also low to moderate income. So the federal government has determined these QCTs throughout the country, and if your business is in a qualified census tract or in a hub zone, then there's an opportunity for your business to pursue set-aside contracts with the federal government. So this would be for-profit. Is your entity a nonprofit or for-profit?
It's actually a for-profit.
Yeah, but it can have a community-based focus. SBA and the federal government and the agencies are looking for businesses that are in a QCT, so it needs to be located in a qualified census tract. You need to have 35% of your employees that live in a qualified census tract or hub zone, and also the owner needs to have 51% ownership of the business. So if your business is located in a QCT, 35% of your employees live in a qualified census tract. It doesn't have to be the one that your business is located in. It just needs, they need to live in a qualified census tract. And then you need to have 51% ownership and oversee day-to-day operations. You would then apply, and then if you're accepted in the program, then you could pursue set-aside non-competitive contracts with the federal government. And we have a Veterans Administration, we have a DOD, Department of Defense, we have NASA, and they are offering these hub zone contracts.
Great questions. I know we might have a few more out there.
Jude, I just wanted to mention for the gentleman who asked about equity investment, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention there's Houston Angel Network, there's Houston Exponential, there is TMCX, there is Station Houston, there is the I-45 corridor. So I want to let you know that there are additional investors in addition to SBIC, and we can have a conversation, but there are also additional investors that are outside of SBA that you'll want to think about. And there's exciting on the west end, they're building the Cannon. And then there's going to be 140,000 square feet of incubator space, and they're going to have their own investors at the Cannon that will be wanting to invest in small businesses. So small businesses, be aware of the Cannon, the 140,000 square feet of space, and it's near or adjacent to the Houston Community College Northwest campus.
Great information. Y'all might want to give Mark contact information. You seem to have some SBA, a lot of SBA questions, which again, because we're a preferred lender, I want you to ask Mark all the questions you can, because that'd mean more SBA loans for the three of them sitting there.
The Cannon project, are you talking about the HCC Northwest right of Westheimer?
Very good question. This would be on I-10 and Beltway 8. I-10 and Beltway 8, and just adjacent to the Houston community. There was an article in the Friday's Houston Chronicle. There was an article on the Cannon, and that it's going to be opening shortly. And you'll want to take a tour.
Any questions? Sure? Sure.
There was a section where it was you could do loans for equity. I think it was a startup section one, and it was like 10% to 33% equity. Was that equity of the company itself?
We're talking about the startup loan program. We do require for you to bring equity to the table into your business, your startup loan your startup business. It could be assets that you already own, that you already invested on it, or it could be cash as far as what you can bring to the table as a down payment type of contribution, anywhere from 10% to 33%.
Yeah, one of the things that when I talk to business owners, unfortunately, banks or like any of the other panels, there's not such a thing as 100% lending. So you always have to keep that in mind, that you always have to bring equity. That's what we call equity, but pretty much it's just your own funds to the project. So for example, let's say that you want to buy a building, we ask you for down payment. If you want to buy equipment, same thing. You have to put equity in the project. You know, we always require some skin in the game.
Yeah, the last time we focused, financial institutions focused on doing 125% loan, 125, 150% loan value. Yeah, we had the biggest real estate housing crisis we've ever seen. So, you know, we won't do 100% lending. We do have some physician programs. Now, you're probably saying like they need the money, right? We do have some physicians program where we'll do up to 100%, but that's very rare.
We can, Lift Fund consider part of your equity injection any equipment that you purchase prior to starting a business, supported by receipts, so we can count that as your equity injection as well.
They can get really creative at Lift Fund. Really creative. Anthony already told you he'll take jewelry. Now, you might see him on a Saturday wearing your watch.
Everything but the wedding bands, okay?
All right. Any other questions? So I think what's very, very important, Mr. Teacher, you have another question? No, please ask it. Please ask it.
Okay. All right. Going back to what my man was saying about the web and intellectual property. Is the only way to get intellectual property funding or web-based funding is to have those subscribers? Or, you know what I mean? That makes sense? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm asking?
The collateral that y'all were talking about before where it's like accounts receivable, so that could translate a little bit to subscription or like subscribers to the service that you're offering. So is there anything else that could be used as collateral other than accounts receivable, such as intellectual property? I think you mentioned the software itself could be used as collateral, or like maybe data.
I will tell you this, and again, I work in business banking, small business banking. I think I'm quite intelligent, but the middle market commercial people might think they're a little smarter than we are. And I'll say this: I haven't heard. They may, like for instance, a patent. They may be able to lend money against a patent. We just don't do that in our space. And we'll do up to 25, 30, even 40 million in revenue size in our space and the space that Nancy and I cover. And you all, probably talking more of a startup, but we just, I haven't seen where we've taken like a patent as collateral. Not to say that we wouldn't. We can always research it and ask. The worst thing they could say is no, and that costs you nothing. But are there some lenders or some financial institutions out there who may? Perhaps. Again, we just might have to do some research to find out who they are. But like I said, because Austin, so we get a lot of a little different than Houston, where you have some software giants and people who are developing things and ask, hey, would you all take this as my equity injection? We have this and we have this contract that we know we can secure once we get the money to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And so we've looked at some things like that, and some cases we've been able to do some things.
Jude makes a good point, Cecil, and that is there are certain types of projects that may be in equity, like the gentleman up here earlier asked about equity investment. In certain types of projects, equity investors have a propensity towards investing into. It could be IT related or patent related. Now, if you had a patent and you had you were already set up for manufacturing and you had cash flow, it may be a scenario where a bank would look at that. But if you're in the preliminary stages where you have a preliminary patent or you just have the patent, it may be a situation like the gentleman up front that inquired about equity investment. It may be a venture capitalist or angel investor who would invest in that project. So just be aware, Cecil, it may not just be a debenture or loan guarantee. It may take that type of project, may be equity investment related, and it could be someone other than an SBA equity investor that might want to invest in that project. And Jude, just to share to Cecil, we do have volunteers at SCORE who have an expertise in equity investment to assist you and prepare that memorandum, that pitch that you would make to an investor. We have SCORE volunteers that could work with you on that as well.
I think we're going to see Cecil on Friday. Yeah. I'm talking about on Shark Tank.
Hour.
I'm talking about on Shark Tank. I think we're going to see Cecil on Friday. Are you on Friday?
All right, so other options as far as securing collateral, life insurance. There are Keynote life insurance and executive life insurance. Can that be used?
So, go ahead, Nancy. I'm going to let you answer this one for sure.
It will it will depend also in the type of industry. Usually doctors, that can be what, because really they are the business. I mean, something happens to the doctor and the business might be gone, and we do have those requirements for some professions. But in the average,
it's difficult to do, but I will give you a scenario. We had a client who paid up his life insurance of $3 million for 25 years. So he paid all premiums and everything for 25 years in hopes of securing a loan against that policy. And it was, I mean, on the surface, it sounded pretty darn good. I mean, like, wow, that's a good suggestion. He's pretty intelligent to be able to do so. But it was just a lot of red tape, and we weren't able to pull it off, unfortunately. So I haven't heard of scenarios where we've definitely been able to do it. We use it to strengthen packages. Like you talk about key man insurance. Key man insurance is for you. Meaning that if you have someone in your organization, whether that be you or someone else that is key to the success of the organization, we would suggest you take that out just in case that person leaves or if something happens to them, and your protection, your company could still strive.
Or a partner, yeah, because let's say that you're in a partnership and something happens to your partner.
Yes.
That can be a situation where that can be helpful because you're not alone now with the debt or the business expenses. You can have the insurance, but as like collateral, we won't take it. Sometimes the SBA also requires a policy, and of course the bank or the SBA have to be the beneficiary. Because I've been in situations where the kids didn't know that, and it got pretty ugly, where it was like, no, the funds go to the bank.
I was just going to add, Jude, and Nancy makes a good point, and that is typically SBA require that the policy limit match the loan amount, and typically the minimum time period for that insurance policy is for the length of the loan.
Yeah, absolutely. So great questions, great dialogue. Panelists, you all did a great job, doing a great job. But great questions. I think we had some of the more difficult questions. I'm glad Mark was here because we had some of the more, I do a lot of things for Mr. Brittle at the end, and I ain't never seen him have an intelligent answer to any question. But no, I'm just playing. He's extremely intelligent. So, he's one of my go-to when I have to have a question. I normally I get my peer Freddie to ask him because I don't know if I'm his favorite either. But we always, we shoot ideas off of one another. And I would encourage you to use these same resources. I mean, we use us as resources. I think one of the requirements that each of you all have is also a mentor conversation, and the Capital One business bankers are doing that in most cases. I had one today, and I saw several bankers, meet with Lift Off Houston participants to look at business plans and kind of talk through it. So I'll just leave you all with this. When you come in, remember two things about your business plan. One, your business plan should be able to tell a story to someone who is not there when you do your pitch or when you talk about your business plan. So it should be able to tell a story. Not a full detailed story, but enough that they're interested in hearing more, right? So that's what your business plan should incorporate. So when I look at, if I'm not there when you do your pitch and tell me about your business, because nobody can say it like you can, I need to be able to read it and say, okay, I get a great understanding of what he or she is trying to accomplish here. Two, and somebody talked about this earlier, give yourself credit for things you've done in the past. So maybe you haven't had the title of manager, but you worked with a different organization similar to the one that you want to do now, and you was a supervisor, right? Give yourself credit for that, of that management experience, that supervisory experience. Let the banker tell you that, let's take this out. Let's add it. And let them tell you, well, let's take this out. And the last one is, don't just send them your business plan and want them to sign off. Spend some time talking about it. It's going to be one of the first opportunities you get to have insight from someone who is looking at your business plan with the intent that they would loan money to you for your business. So that's very, very valuable. So, you know, take advantage of it. Absolutely take advantage of it. And the business bankers in the Houston market are phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. So they will help you in every way that you possibly can, but please dedicate the time to do so. So if we don't have any other questions, again, I just want to thank, you know, Houston Public Library for the space, for the resources, for the volunteers. You know, I know that, you know, you're taking time away from, you know, your personal lives and your families to be here. So, you know, thank you all very much. We got to thank the city of Houston. You know, without them, I mean, it was kind of like a couple of people brainchild. So we definitely want to be, and you know, and Capital One just want to be a real great corporate partner. And I mean, that's the reason why we do what we do. But we can't do it without these individuals. We can't do it without SBA. We can't do it without Lift On. We can't do it without HBDI, right? And others. We just can't. We don't have the resources. And clearly, you know, when talking SBA, we might not have the talent. So you got to have a fancy, you know, title. You know, he's the real Triple D, right? So when you talk about diner driving and dives, so that's not the real Triple D. So. So let's just keep that in mind. But, you know, we thank you for your time and your attention. Please be safe and have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you all at the next phase.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jude. You did a great job.